What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations. 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co host and co produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that movement since 2020, that team, which I'm a part of, we've reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live Sunday, November 16th, Black Canada Talking, where our good friend Cesar Ndema-Moussa gives his takes and POVs on local, provincial, international, countrywide, global things. And I know we have a special co-host today who is joining us, but that's okay. So Cesar, what is going on? What is up?
Hi, Dr. Vibe. Hi, brothers and sisters and allies. Thank you always for having me. We're great. Thank you. Um, I hope you are well. I hope everybody's well. I know it's getting colder, but also, talking about the economic situation and many others. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's been going on in your world? You always got things going on, my brother.
Work, as you know, and getting involved with the community and advancing the cause.
Yeah,
That's basically it. Yeah.
good stuff. Good stuff. Are you looking forward to holiday time in the near future? Because the end of the year is coming up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody deserves a break. And thoughts to all our people, brothers and sisters, allies, good workers, hard workers who are unfortunately dealing with this government shutdown. Because even when they say the shutdown has ended, it doesn't mean the bill appear, the paycheck appears the day after, and notably when having to deal with other financial situations.
Absolutely. Yes, and Cesar is referring to the economic shutdown or government shutdown finally being political. Well, who knows? It's not politically ended, but it's been ended, I guess, government, like high level government wise, but still there's things that have to flow through to the people. They need to get back on board. They need to get back on board. Uh, any interesting stories from the front line that you want to share with us before we go to break?
Uh, Dr. Vab, allow me to give you credit as I gave a training to managers and public servants this week. And, for those listening today or later or anytime, um, as they were vetting me in order to have me, they came across some of the Dr. Vibe on YouTube from 2, 3 years ago,
Wow.
and that's what decided them to hire me. It wasn't just about me being a regional director or expert or whatever how people want to call it. It
Yep.
was ultimately they listened to one or two Dr. Vibe episodes, and that's what decided them to hire me for not just one day of training management and public servants, but they renewed it for 2 more sessions. So
Love it.
indeed,
Yes.
indeed, the value of the show and Dr. Vab, as you were saying, as you were telling me then, you never know where it can land. So yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
we never know what's well, I am so happy about that, and, they didn't take a recent show, they took a Black Canada Talking from a few years ago, which
From a few years ago.
I gotta tip my hat to the organization because many organizations were just, "Oh, let's take a look at the latest thing." They went back. So,
Yeah,
I tip my hat off to them, and it's my joy and pleasure, Cesar, because when Cesar succeeds, we all succeed.
indeed. Thank you. When we succeed, we all succeed. And as such, always, you know, I disagree with the notion of competition in terms of bringing other down. Always compete to elevate everyone, to improve the standards. And one of the mind frames about the Black community that I address, that I challenge, is the state of um, in French they say médiocrité, basically mediocrity, low standards,
Mhm.
in which basically we internalize. that little of quality is expected from us. And I reject that entirely. And I look up to our ancestors, um, that indeed we are and we must be able to always produce the best.
Love that. I agree. Black excellence is everywhere. It's everywhere, big time. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick little break, and we're going to run a quick little promo of a pretty important guest is coming on the Dr. Vibe show tomorrow on November 17th at 12 p.m. and we'll come right back.
Check out the Dr. Vibe show live tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern, where Dr. Vibe will be speaking with Alfred Edmond Jr., Senior Vice President and Executive Editor at Black Enterprise, about how health is currency.
All right, we are back. Yes, on tomorrow's show, or one of my, well, I host a number of different shows. There's Black Anna Talking, there's a Dr. Vibe show, there's the Morning Vibe, there's Prime Time Saturday with Isha and Lala. And for people, okay, many people have heard about Forbes magazine. That's a pretty well-known name. Black Enterprise is the Black American version of Forbes magazine, which has been around at least 50 years. And piggybacking on what Cesar said at the begin a few moments ago before our break, I got a call from someone who I hadn't spoken to for 2 or 3 months. We touch base periodically, and he said, "Oh, do you know that Black Enterprise is doing a an event in Toronto this week on Thursday?" I go, "Yeah, I've heard about it." He says, "Well, they reached out to me to see if they can get some press, some publicity, and I told them they need to come on your show." Oh, okay. All right. And he started sending emails because they deal with things like that in real time. And cutting the story short, I actually spoke with Alfred Edmond Jr., who is a senior vice president, executive editor of Black Enterprise on Friday evening. We were chatting. I said, like, I'm really looking forward to having you on the show. Says, I started to share a little about myself. So, no, I know about you, Dr. Vibe. I've been following you for a while. All I'm saying is not about me, but just an example. Make sure you have a consistent presence because you never know. Cesar has this opportunity for upcoming sharing with these organizations, myself, and my goal is to shine light on Black Enterprise, Mr. Edmond Jr. But I've already I said I'm looking at long term. I'm not a one and done. So I'm very excited about that opportunity. So let's get down to some housekeeping. As always, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. I'll also hit the notification button. Also follow the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. What else do we got going on here today? So to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm a part of, please feel free to email me, dr period VIBE at the dr VIBESHOW.com. Cannot forget our good friend, Dr. Tache. Dr. Tachi out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, runs a great content platform called Indie Soup TV, Independent Content Creators, which I'm one of them. About 25 to 30 of us providing content on that platform of independent content creators. There is the information on the screen and how you can check it out. You also can go to indiesoupmedia.tv and never forget 28,000 subscribers on that platform in about 21 months. And only 4% of all YouTube channels have over 10,000 subscribers. So check it out. And finally, if you are watching this live, if you've got a question or a take, please go to, whether it's your smartphone, if you're watching this live, you see the QR code, you can swipe or go to callme.road.com. It'll take you to a website, put in the code FSPL8L. It'll take you to another screen to ask you to complete your name and say join call. You click on that, you come in live. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to show a little intro, trying to raising the bar a bit to give a little context to each one of the stories that we're going to be chatting about today. So we're going to show something really quick about this first story.
Our first story is immigration of Black newcomers in rural areas.
All right, so Cesar, kick it off with immigration of Black newcomers in rural areas. All right, Cesar, you need to unmute yourself.
I'm sorry about that.
No problem. That's okay. Go ahead.
So, indeed, it is the topic of what I'm presenting to these management and public servants in rural areas. Um, the changing demographics cannot just be to receive immigration in urban centers. In terms of Canada, that would be, the corridor of pretty much Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, GTA, Windsor. Uh, it cannot it's not sustainable. Uh, we need to diversify, and as such, we need to have immigration spreading. But of course, it comes with challenges. Challenges in terms of the welcoming community, but challenges also of those who are incoming into these communities. And it's a topic that's not enough addressed, firstly, because people assume immigration to be in the urban centers, but also because of the lack of resources and as well education in regards to rural areas. The first thing I would like to point out is to be careful to fall into biases or lenses of the unwelcoming nature of rural areas. Absolutely, more white, more Christian, more conservative, and yet that still does not mean more racist than urban centers. However, it is true there is lack of resources that occur, and as such, educating those in organizations and institutions that are welcoming newcomers to do a better job, more cultural awareness, but to also be better equipped, have better toolkits. However, let me also add a failure that too often tends to be made is also to welcome immigration with a lack of integration in terms of the resources, such as I was talking like housing and such, and also lacking the time for adaptation, such as education on culture, history, etc., for the newcomers to have an easier fit in, just as for the welcoming communities to better welcome, but also when we know certain demographics from certain parts of the world to be better educated on welcoming them. So that's something I would say uh, in terms of the importance, because as everybody I think would have noticed, there is a white lash, aka a backlash against EDI, social justice, but notably Black progress and Black voices can't just be addressed by pointing fingers or just calling people racist. Sometimes people are not racist. They may be ignorant, but racist requires an intention per se. And as such, I think the education, the time, but to educate on both sides goes a longer way.
All right, Cesar, I want to go a little bit deeper with you on this. Do you feel with the current system that Black newcomers that are basically forced to go to rural areas to start up?
Mhm.
Because I know a number of people from the Toronto area, they came to this country to go to places like Saskatchewan, Alberta. Do you feel that the infrastructure is there for them to succeed going to those places?
So before I address that, let us remember a message I've always had, and you also have, Dr. Vibe, the development and empowerment of Black communities from within. Less expectation in terms of the federal, provincial, and even municipal governments, but very much Black communities developing, empowering themselves in terms of each and every man, woman, and child, and thus families and communities. And this was very much a model that was done when we look at African American ancestors from 100 years ago, such as Black Wall Street, Rosewood, etc., that became so successful that white supremacists attacked them. So that's from within, FUBU, for us, by us. On the other side, when we talk in terms of government, because of course, governments, notably federal, deciding upon welcoming this foreign, labor workforce and then implementing them into areas such as Saskatchewan. But also, people tend to not realize this. There are Black people in Yukon and the Northwest
Oh, yeah.
Territory.
Yes, that's true.
Absolutely. Absolutely. People tend to forget that. But us Black people, it's not enough to be everywhere. It's also up on the governments that are receiving newcomers. By newcomers, Black, Asian, Middle Eastern slash Arab, uh, white newcomers, to make sure that infrastructures are there. Because if it's not, what we end up seeing is such a thing as what has happened in terms of the Indian community in Brampton, where talks have been made in terms of from stealing the job to changing the demographics of Brampton to a surge of racist comments online, but even behaviors against the Indian community. And of course, who can forget about the association of immigration with lack of housing? Absolutely not true. But this is what happens when communities become under tension due to lack of minimizing resources and not proper planning has been done between the state of the community itself and the incoming people that are being brought here, having been sold the better life and etc. Whether we're talking about Indian as Nigerian, Ghanaian students, etc., or we're talking about temporary workers, or we're talking about cheap labor, etc., etc. I mean, this is a Canada in which, let's be honest, you can find a foreign engineer, doctor, you name it, was driving a taxi. But who would imagine a white Canadian, white American, white French, British, German uh, doctor or engineer driving a taxi in Africa or the Middle East or Asia because they couldn't be hired? You see, this nature of geopolitics, of globalization, has racism embedded in it. And as such, yes to immigration, but immigration without proper integration and time for adaptation only leads to tension. Only leads to tensions.
So, in the news, a lot we hear about challenges with immigration in the United States, but Canada has its own challenges when it comes when it regards
Absolutely.
to immigration, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And let me give a very good example that many will recognize. This is the Canada in which African refugees, so I'm not just talking about immigrants, I'm putting immigrants, refugees, and even asylum seekers from Africa, the Middle East, Afghanistan, Yemen, you name it, Palestine would have a hard time coming in. Such a backlog, etc., etc. Ukrainians, red carpet. And this exacerbated many tensions in terms of, kind of like um, white supremacists tend only seem to care about the homeless when there are refugees coming in. When there are no refugees coming in, they don't care about the homeless that they see every day on the street. So, indeed, Canada has its own tensions. And let's be a little bit fair to the Canadian government in terms of which, we look at the map of Canada and we're like, how can there be a housing crisis or whatever when you have this vast territory? But we know, what is it again? I think it's 80% of the Canadian population lives within an hour or two drive from the US border.
Yeah, it's true.
And when you look at cities such as Montreal, Toronto, I think Edmonton as well, and Vancouver, there is a rise in the commute in terms of traffic, growing population, but the lack of the development of infrastructures, notably modern infrastructures. So you can add here gas and fossil fuels versus solar panels, renewable energies, the new urban layout to be more green, but also more green, more efficient in relation to more population. It's not just a matter of stretching slash expanding the urban zone. It's about also making sure that rural areas become attractive spots of establishment. But for that to happen, the government, federal, provincial, but also municipal, have to be involved. I remember a few years ago, I'm going to say 2020, because it was online, me addressing eight mayors of rural communities, rural small towns, in regards to this conversation. And look, we're right in the thick of it. It is there. It's not that it's happening. It's not that it's going to happen. It is happening. It's right there. It's that one black family, that one uh, Arab Muslim, aka veiled woman family. No, more are coming. And if you want to be true to the Canada that we like to claim to be, aka that postcard image, aka that, peacekeeper, United Nations soldier type of Canada, that, that welcoming country where everybody has a chance, has freedom and rights as per the charter, we have to be able to develop the rural communities to be welcoming, not, and I reject the notion that because people live in rural areas, therefore they are racist. That's absolutely not true. George Floyd was not murdered in some rural small town. You see what I mean? How many names can I give? Can I give of blacks such as Abdirahman Abdi, um, uh, I got Korchinski Paquet. I apologize. I'm forgetting the first name. Korchinski Paquet in Toronto, and so many other names. Freddy Villanueva in Montreal, etc., etc. So this is not a matter of rural areas because they're more white, sometimes exclusively white, very homogeneous, Christian, conservative. Therefore, they are racist. No, let us not create some false equivalencies, amalgams in order to fit a certain narrative. That's not it. But let's just make sure that we do further development in order to increase better adaptation, better integration. Yeah.
And in the house, Dr. Tachi is here saying good evening. As always, Dr. Tachi, it is a pleasure to have you in the presence. And if you want to call in, because you're the person who probably calls in the most, that is a-okay with us. So this is our
Good evening, Dr. Tachi.
one last thing before we move on to another conversation topic. Then, do you feel with newcomers in this country, should they be allowed to come to the major centers first, or should they go to rural centers, stay there a while, and then if they choose to come to more metropolitan centers?
Rather, to be quite blunt, we need to have ways that not only do they come first to the urban areas, but also that they establish themselves into the urban areas. Because when we have newcomers also leaving rural areas, sorry, so come to rural areas and establish themselves there, when they leave, it becomes also a loss in the long term. The white, generally speaking, this is statistically proven, the white population is aging. So when we hear the Canadian population is aging, that's true, but even more the white population. There is a demographic boom among black population, Arab, Middle Eastern, indigenous. The white population is aging, and as such, it should not be that people become doomed living in rural areas, having to go to urban areas that are tending to be overcrowded. You look at Ottawa now. Ottawa now has traffic jams on Sundays. Hard to imagine. Sure, it's the capital of Canada, but Ottawa having traffic jams on weekend was unheard of, and now even on Sundays. So no, we need to develop these rural areas in the same sense as to recognize that living in an urban area does not mean that all will be well and perfect, even though there are more resources. But as I was saying, George Floyd didn't get killed in some rural area. Regis Korchinski Paquet, that was in Toronto, as Abdirahman Abdi, that's in Ottawa, Freddy Villanueva, that's in Montreal. So many examples that we can give in which one is not absolutely perfect and one is not absolutely flawed. Let us spread, let us diversify, let us reduce the zones of tensions, of high risk. Let us reduce the zones in which we can create a better heterogeneous nation in which whether one choose or is able, because very often it's not so much a matter of choice, it's a matter of being able to, rural or urban, they can do so knowing they can find the resources, they can thrive and be happy independently of the background, just as of the skin color, and I dare say, even of the profession. If I give a last example, look at the ongoing crisis right now in Quebec with the doctor situation, in which over 300 Quebec doctors have applied to come work in Ontario and outside of Quebec. Look at the similar situation in the United States under Trump 2.0, in which many medical professionals, but also academics, have applied to come work to Canada. Those are the people who can. What about all the other people who can't? And we're talking about, for example, doctors in Quebec. What about that family, newcomers to Canada? Because they're not newcomers to Quebec per se. If I take the example of Quebec, Black newcomers are assigned to Quebec because of French language. But then the climate of racism, the nature of Quebec politics, they'd like to leave, but they can't because they don't speak English. Because they may not have had the Canadian accreditations, because they don't have the financial means, because they don't have the network connections, etc., etc. If we did have a better society in which the doctor doesn't have to move out of fear, imagine the newcomer, what they may be going through, but they just don't have the means nor the connections to be able to move.
Excellent. And in the house also, the Walamala. Good to see you here as always, hanging out on Black Canada, talking with our good friend Cesar. And also, too, if you want to touch base with Cesar, this is the best way. There's email, president at rootsandculturecanada.com, and also Facebook, Cesar Remy Emery. So that's how you can get in touch with Cesar. And let me just see if there's any other. Yes. And Dr. Tati says to the Walamala, happy Sunday also. So we got some family in here. Fantastic. All right. We're going to get another story coming up in just a second. And a short little introduction, and the Cesar will go right into it. So here we go.
Our next story is Pierre Poilievre and the dynamics of failed leadership.
All right, Cesar, and probably it may be good to give a little background of who Mr. Poilievre is, because we have a global audience, but give some background on who he is and the potential leadership challenges he may be facing in Canada.
Our people, it's important to understand that Mr. Pierre Poilievre is the leader of the Conservative Party. Sometimes they say progressive conservative, but Conservative Party. He is the leader of the official federal opposition in Canada. But where it becomes even more interesting are two things here. Mr. Poilievre and his party reject EDI. So in the United States, you say DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. In Canada, we usually use EDI, equity, diversity, inclusion. I personally, as a professional in that field, I do not do inclusion, I do inclusivity. I invite you to learn the difference. I teach this. The other thing that's very interesting is that Mr. Poilievre, earlier in the year, if I recall, the springtime elections, lost his traditional seat in the Ottawa area, Ottawa, the capital of Canada. It was a shockwave. He was rejected by his voters despite being the leader of the official opposition. And as such, months down the road, he ended up being re-elected in the riding in Alberta, a very conservative province, riding that was already acquired to the conservative cause. thus his return to parliamentary politics. But the situation that's happening is that in the context of the passing of the Canadian budget, so Canadian federal budget, the current Prime Minister, Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of England, as former governor of the Bank of Canada, and former advisor to the former Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, has tabled a budget which basically his minority position is actually short of three members in order to pass. And if I'm not mistaken with the numbers, that is, Mr. Poilievre management style as a leader, so leadership style, has suffered the change of political allegiances of one MP, member of parliament, just as in England, just as in Great Britain, and another one who has resigned. And the expectations are that others may, but are likely to follow suit, aka there's little doubt among political analysts, other political analysts that I watch, that I listen to. There's little doubt that this budget will go, notably as no party, especially the NDP, the New Democratic Party, has no interest nor benefit in going into elections, as they lost the official opposition party um, title, finding themselves reduced to 7 members, but being $23 million in debt from the last elections. So they have no interest in voting against this budget. The question of leadership for Mr. Poilievre becomes even more interesting as end of January he's bound, I mean it is already scheduled, to face a vote of confidence from his own delegates of the Conservative Party. And this basically means a vote of trust in his leadership or not. And as we are coming close to January, losing two MPs, and it's important to understand why. The MP will switch allegiances. Uh, Dr. Vibe, you helped me here, but the story is a rejection to the leadership style of Mr. Poilievre. But even the one who resigned, it is the same thing. Leadership style, but also of his chief of staff, that is very much toxic. It's very much kind of like imperial, dictatorial. And it's interesting here as it's notably mentioned that conservative MPs in Quebec have more freedom of reign than the ones in the rest of Canada, as the conservative struggle so much in Quebec, and Quebec having this unique statute in Canada in terms of being uh, the francophone province. To make it even more interesting, if I dare say, more and more calling out the fact that Mr. Poilievre got to be again leader of the official opposition in what many see rightfully as a mockery of democracy, aka he got defeated in his riding where he had been for 20 plus years, and he was just put into a safe riding to ensure his reelection, basically cheating the voters. So when you add this, when you add the MPs of his party were left, and then you add that he himself talked about not wanting nor agreeing to change his leadership style, it keeps adding to the notions of cause of resignation of himself as the leader of the official opposition.
Do you see that by the end of the year?
I don't see Pierre Poilievre, and I'm not here making some type of character judgment per se. I oppose Mr. Poilievre because, for one, um, he opposes EDI. So As an EDI professional, expert, as some say, how can I support the men who oppose what I stand for, not only professionally, but also in terms of values? However, one or more, whether it's one or two or three more conservative MPs switching allegiances, to me, he would be doomed. It would be very hard. And I say this with respect to what we've seen about about American politics in terms of so many times a certain orange man, aka Donald Trump, has been written off just for him to still be there. But Canadian politics are not American politics. And to go further, when we think about what it took for Andrew Scheer and Erin O'Toole, former conservative leaders since the departure of Stephen Harper in 2015, when we see what it took for them to be shown the door of the party leadership, it pales in comparison to what is increasing for Mr. Poilievre. It really pales.
Then what is the future of the Conservative Party for the next few years then? Because it it do you have any vision on that at all?
Well, the Conservative Party under Pierre Poilievre tries too much and too hard to be a maple version of MAGA.
Mm,
And that becomes problematic because Canadian politics are not as polarized as American politics, notably because we don't have the same history, and as close as the two cultures are, they are not so close to the point to which we can truly see a January 6, 2021 in Ottawa. But of course, we did see what happened in 2022 with the Freedom Convoy,
mhm.
but the leaders of the Freedom Convoy actually faced justice. No matter how we can disagree with the sentencing, they did face justice. And let us not forget that majority of Canadians did not approve of the Freedom Convoy. Those radical or radicalized who participated in such were answered quite much by the federal government right away. Mr. Poilievre's attempt to Americanize Canadian politics was even mocked by Donald Trump, aka, I can't remember exactly how he put it, but basically calling out Pierre Poilievre that he's trying to act and behave or to manage the Conservative Party as Trump. So Poilievre is trying to run this wave of white supremacy, but truly of resentment politics, of always pointing the finger. Let's not forget that Mr. Poilievre very much fits into the narrative that Donald Trump is trying to assign to Zoran Mamdani, the newly elected mayor of New York, aka this guy has never worked a day of his life. Mr. Poilievre has been an MP since his mid-20s.
True.
If we look in contrast to Ontario's prime minister or even the premier of Quebec, these men are former businessmen.
Right.
These men have run businesses and they actually did work even before running businesses, which is, like them or not, and right now the CAQ, the CAQ, Coalition Avenir Québec of Mr. Legault in Quebec, is quite unpopular, but none is rejecting that they do have experience and they have earned the right to the position. While for many, and I'm saying many, I'm not talking about people who are necessarily supporting the Liberal government, but many, even on the right, Mr. Poilievre is not seeming like the right fit, not just for prime minister, but even for leader of the opposition party. Ted, I personally, how can I support someone who opposes EDI?
True.
I
True.
cannot.
Yeah. That would not be aligned with you, that we know of you. So
There
100%.
you
Well,
go.
it'll be very interesting to see. Um, like there was already in the last week, someone who left the PC party to go to liberals, and as you mentioned, there's rumors of more people and dissatisfaction on the way Polyev is running the party. So we will be continuing to watch that story. All right, we're gonna do another story. It'll be our last one today. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna run a little bit of a background about it, and then we'll be back. So we'll be back in probably about 90 seconds. We want to give a little bit of a trailer before we get this one started. So here we go.
Have you ever wondered how Jeffrey Epstein's case intersected with Donald Trump and the MAGA era? Let's break it down clearly and factually. In the early 2000s, Trump described Epstein as a terrific guy and a lot of fun to be with, and they socialized frequently. They were seen together at Mar-a-Lago and on Epstein's private jet in the 1990s. Around 2004, their friendship soured. Reports cite a bidding war over a Palm Beach property as a turning point. In 2007 and 2008, Epstein was convicted in Florida on child sex offenses. Trump publicly distanced himself. In 2019, Epstein died by suicide while awaiting federal sex trafficking charges. During the MAGA era in 2025, several developments occurred. In February, the Department of Justice shared Phase 1 Epstein files with conservative influencers, but these were mostly already public documents. In July, the DOJ confirmed there was no client list and released partial surveillance footage from Epstein's cell. On July 28th and 29th, Trump said he ended his friendship because Epstein stole people who worked for me, including Virginia Giuffre, and called Epstein a creep. In August, Ghislaine Maxwell told the DOJ she never saw Trump behave inappropriately and denied knowledge of any client list. In September, the House Oversight Committee released Epstein's 2003 birthday book, which included a note allegedly signed by Trump, but he denied authorship. In November, emails from Epstein's estate surfaced, suggesting Trump was mentioned in communications, with some implying he knew about Epstein's conduct. So what's confirmed? Epstein and Trump were socially connected in the 1990s and early 2000s. Epstein was convicted in 2008 and died in 2019. In 2025, the DOJ and Congress released documents and statements. Maxwell denied inappropriate behavior by Trump. Trump denied wrongdoing, and emails show he was referenced by Epstein. What remains contested is the authenticity of the birthday book note, the meaning of email mentions, and the full extent of Trump's knowledge or involvement.
The president of the Cesar Ndema-Moussa fan club, Michelle, is in the house, and she says, "Bonsoir, Cesar and Dr. Vibe."
Bonsoir, Michel. And please allow me to say, it's nice to see you, Michelle. I hope you well because it had been some time. So I was wondering where was Michelle? Is
There
everything
you
okay? So
go.
I am very glad to see your message, Michelle. I hope you and your family as well are well.
Okay.
We already at the end of the year, but each year, it's a privilege to be alive, and it's a privilege to have people who remember us. Thank you for your message.
Fantastic. And we have and she goes, "All is quiet on the rural front, thank you." She goes, it says she was having issues with her mom, but those have been resolved, so
Oh, okay.
she has been focused now. So let's get to our last conversation piece for today, which is 47 and MAGA, Epstein and sex trafficking as pedophilia. Cesar, go for it.
So allow me to congratulate the video piece you just played. It was very well summarized.
Thank you.
Um, Look, there is an English expression, and you know me and English expressions. I love them, but I'm really bad at telling them. I think it's pot calling the kettle, something like that.
Pot calling the kettle black.
There you go. Uh, in this case, pot calling the kettle white, of course. This is one of those white on white crime type of stories in which Donald Trump is being caught up by his own tongue, aka he and the MAGA movement were the ones who were brandishing the Epstein file, that there's some big elite conspiracy going on. And now, who is the one most embroiled in it? Trump himself. Pam Bondi as Valhalla, that's what I like to call him, Valhalla Cash Patel. They basically came up there to the front scene, to the national and even international scene, screaming about pedophilia, sex trafficking, and justice in regard to the Epstein's files. And now suddenly, Attorney General, FBI Director, oh, they're playing what is definitely seeming like cover up for Trump. And I'm saying seemingly like because Trump's own behavior for someone who would claim to have nothing to do or nothing wrong to address is incoherent with someone innocent of something. He's basically raising suspicions himself. To go further down the road, we must not forget here that Trump himself does have a history with women, notably younger women, from grabbing them uh, at the genital parts, grabbing the privates, salacious comments, him being documented by notably, I think, Miss Universe pageant woman as being creepy, just entering the change rooms and other such. I am absolutely not trying to add or to feed any conspiracy or any what some may think of as slander, but all of this is documented, just as is documented the action of statutory sexual assault, which many call rape, of E. Jean Carroll. And let's not forget who is a chronic liar. Who is a chronic liar that, someone who is chronic at whatever they do, it becomes not just second nature, but it becomes first nature. It's part of them. An alcoholic is not an alcoholic because it's 4 p.m. A junkie is not a junkie because it's Saturday night after the club and therefore they must do a lie. A chronic liar lies despite all facts, as Trump is doing, example regarding the economy, best economy ever, exit. Even the MAGA people are starting to see that they're being taken for fools, aka they're being taken as sheep to the slaughterhouse to put him back to power, aka I will bring the economy on top and all that. And nope, that's not the case. So he is not credible himself in his denial of suspicions. I'm not even saying accusations, of suspicions towards him. It's so incoherent from a man who basically said he cut off relations with Jeffrey Epstein because he was a creep, and yet it's being revealed that no, they didn't end relations just because of a property. And to go further than that, let us not forget something very important here. Because, I don't do theories, and I'm definitely not, I never thought of myself as a director of some movie script. But let us connect the dots the way it's looking like to me. A certain man who is a billionaire and is famous is known to employ attractive young women and to have them at his property, notably by the name of Mar-a-Lago. Another man who is a billionaire who is known to have sexual tendencies and a lust for young women happens to be friends with that man who has a property with the young woman, and he, that billionaire with sexual tendencies, has a private island, has a jet, has rich and famous friends, and it is told that he might or he was an Israeli spy. Again, I'm just saying based on what I read. Please, I'm not an investigative journalist here, but it is said he was a spy for Israel and notably use coercion methods in terms of spying and having something against his guests. His guests were rich and powerful men, especially in the world of politics and business. It seems like it's connecting in the same way as Vladimir Putin is closer and closer to China's Xi Jinping in light of so many things going on. There is a matter of nature of interest bringing people together, whether it's due to the taste, such as in young women, bordering pedophilia even, but also ever in relations to power and money. The last one I would also say, and it's very important here, this story of the Epstein files going to be the Dr. Vibe, help me with the expression, something about that breaks the camel back.
The straw that broke the camel's back.
There you go. Will the Epstein files be the straw that breaks the camel's back? Because when we look at a certain MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's quite a world we live in, quite a time we live in when Marjorie Taylor Greene, Rambo on the helicopter, blonde woman, making sure to let you know that her femininity comes with steroid and a big gun. When she is standing with the victims of the Epstein file, is it because she's a woman? No, because many women, aka majority of white women, voted for Trump in 2016 and 2024, despite all that was known in terms of his behavior, including statutory sexual assault, aka rape. So it's not because she's a woman or a white woman. I think there's a matter of personal values, but also, and very important here, I give the name of another Republican Congressman, Thomas Massey.
Mm.
The lessons of last Tuesday, was it last Tuesday or the Tuesday before? Those elections that had
Yes, yes,
uh,
yes, yes. The Democrats winning a lot of seats, like the
the,
governor of New
the,
Jersey, New Virginia, Muldowney winning in New York, and even a lot of the
the
down races, a lot of stuff.
there you go. Thomas Massey said it. 2026 is near the corner. 2028 is there, and Trump is not going to be on the ballot. They got to think, and further than that, this is a recorded vote. This is not some secret vote of the yeas and the nays without any mention of names. Mike Johnson had to appoint the Democratic Congresswoman from Arizona. My
Yes.
apologies, I forget her name.
Did
Valaha or
I have an
Valahaja.
apology to interrupt. Did you see her speech? Wow.
There you go. So you see, the pendulum is shifting. And by the way, Dr. Vibe, on the parenthesis, I do tell people, don't discount EDI. It's just a pendulum thing. EDI is coming back earlier than even I expected because all these injustice and situations that are coming back, the social progress is not ending here. So Thomas Massey reminding Republicans, look at the wave of discontentment, the blue wave of discontentment that's rolling across the country when 2026 is coming and affordability not only still being the issue, but also the Epstein files. Epstein, you name it. And we know many of those MAGA are white supremacists. I am not saying that each and every person who supports Donald Trump is a white supremacist. That would be an exaggeration and a fallacy. But let's not try to deny that most, the vast majority, if not all, white supremacists, openly white supremacists, support Donald Trump.
I know
They
it's our
don't like
last
Jewish people.
Yeah, there's a
They
few
don't like
things.
Jewish people. They're anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
So the Epstein files may be indeed the straw that break the camel's back. They're thinking about they wouldn't care if it was black girls being molested. They're caring about the young white woman, the teenage girl white girl. It's in their mind. They're seeing their daughter. Interestingly, the behaviors of Trump, they weren't able to see themselves. They weren't able to see a man creeping on the daughter or the wife. But now they're having that reflection, such as Virginia Giuffre.
A few things because I know you've probably got to go, but interesting enough, the it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the vote. The vote that comes up this week is going to say a lot of things, and as we notice, and there's rumor that 47 is wanting to launch a war on Venezuela to deflect attention. He's doing everything he can to deflect.
Venezuela, Nigeria, aka bringing freedom, aka all reserves, my friends. All reserves. I'm not doing conspiracy theories. Absolutely, there are Christians being killed in Nigeria. I mean, that's a topic by itself.
But hold on a second. Since when did he care about Christians in Nigeria?
There you go. Since when did he care about the so-called countries?
You know, like it's just really interesting to see, and all the deflection. But uh,
Classic Trump, deflection and everything. And yeah, wouldn't be surprised if suddenly next week Maduro must be aware. Someone must have told Maduro the war, because he has mobilized a lot of military. Anything to distract and deflect from what is coming off more and more as such a not just hot but burning topic. Because you see, the elections, the government shutdown, Charlie Kirk, you name it, Epstein files, Epstein files, Epstein file, Epstein file. It keeps coming. Go
well,
ahead.
there's a commentator, a gentleman named Scott Galloway, and I watch him periodically, and he said something interesting a few weeks ago that the two most powerful people in the world are one, the current president of the United States, and also a gentleman who's dead.
The man and the ghost.
Right? A man who is no longer alive, and just all the stuff, and people like Lauren Boebert. They called Lauren Boebert to the Situation Room.
Vacation room.
That
Yeah.
that's only for war. Like when a war is happening, to try to get her on his side. So it's going to be very interesting in a week's time where this leads, and will this be his downfall? He has been able to fight everything else, and you were talking about E. Jean Carroll. He has now gone to the Supreme Court to try to turn that case.
Oh, of course. But the Supreme Court also pays attention to the mood of the people, also pays attention to where the pendulum is swinging. I mean, let's be honest. 60 years ago, in terms of Civil Rights Act and, a civil rights movement, Dr. King and even Malcolm X were able to mobilize more and more white people, notably thanks to a new technology, aka television. Suddenly, whites, notably from the North, were seeing the brutal treatment of brothers and sisters, African Americans, standing up for the cause, were suffering, including death. Now, with this other technology called the internet and social media, people are being able to see not just the emails, but they're being able to see the faces of victims. And when there is a conversation about the list of Epstein clients, when Marjorie Taylor Greene said that she would be the one to read those names in Congress, people want to know. Those women, they know, they remember, but the Epstein files have all those names. So whoever is there is independent of Democrat or Republican as party. I mean, let's be honest. This is kind of like the P. Diddy freak off party or Hugh Hefner playboy parties. But here, power, politics, money coming together with sex trafficking, with pedophilia.
All right. I think that's enough. Cesar, I want to say, as always, thank you for taking the most important thing in your life and all our lives, your time to hang out with us today. What do you have coming up in the near future?
Well, interestingly, I have Tuesday. I'm delivering two conference talks on the aspect of identity and why does it matter. As we were talking about newcomers, we're talking about marginalized communities that include poor white people, that include people with disabilities, whether they be physical, mental, or invisible. But of course, race, gender, sexual orientation, etc. But notably on the matter of identity in terms of the public servants to be better educated in understanding the identity. Example, uh, making sure that people understand there's nothing wrong with being white, but you cannot claiming to be British or Italian, but not white. That's not true.
Okay.
And further to that, next week we will not be having a show. I've been invited to Dubai for an international summit.
Very nice.
Uh, an international summit. So I'll be going to Dubai for a week uh, regarding an international summit on technology innovation as one of the companies that I am shareholders in. Not only the progress, but networking, connections, and the way I call it, I participate in the future I'd like to see for our people,
Hmm.
for my children, and really for our planet Earth.
Have you ever been to Dubai before?
It will be my first time in Dubai, not my first time in the Middle East, not my first time in that part of the world, but my first time in Dubai. I could have gone before. Going, it's kind of like Las Vegas. I could go to Las Vegas every year. I've never been. I never had it. I never had a reason to go. I am not one who enjoys. I mean, now I have a family, so sometimes you got to take vacations in the name of vacation. But I am not one who enjoys traveling just for the sake of traveling or just because I financially can. No, I need to have a purpose. I need to have, and furthermore, now with a family and a child, why would I go to Dubai without a purpose? I am not an influencer, and I absolutely, um, you know, I love modern cities and skyscrapers and all that stuff. I've been in all of those before, but yes, it's for a purpose and it's important enough. And, you know, um, being invited to an international summit, me, that's the type of
Yeah.
things that I like. Don't invite me to a freak off or to a Epstein Island or Playboy party. Like, I wouldn't even understand why you would invite me. I would feel insulted. I would feel insulted. Like, why? But international summit, something that matters. Human rights conference. Addressing systemic racism. You know, you you know. I'm a sapiosexual. Some people say that I'm a sapiosexual. So yes, that's what calls me, and I'm a Pan Africanist. So here I am. Yeah.
All right. Well, look, we're wishing you safe, best success on the presentations that are going this week. Safe travels. I think you're safer going to Dubai than America these days. So,
Dr. Vibe, since I think I told you this, but since the Orange Man president, aka Trump, has come back to power, every time I've gone to the United States, I've had the privilege and luxury of extra security upon me, extra
wow.
searches. Oh yeah, extra searches. Last time in October, um, my daughter backpack needed even additional search with all the
Wow.
metal and this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It wasn't like that before, as every year, not for the United Nations, but since this year, every time I've gone to the United States, aka more than once, yeah, I've had the privilege and luxury of additional searches. I qualified or it was random, you know.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good stuff. And Dr. Tachi says, great conversation.
Thank you,
So
Dr. Tashi, and I wish you well as well.
excellent. We've got to get you two back on a show together in the near future. It's always good. But as we wrap up, again, if you want to get a hold of Cesar, again, email address president@rootsandculturecanada.com, Facebook, Cesar Remy Emery. If you want to find out more about myself, best place to do it is go to taplink.cc/the Dr. Vibe Show. And you can watch replays of this epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Also, the website, thedrvibeshow.com. So, as always, this is how we end off. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And remember to give yourself grace. And as always, if you're not making money, make history. Try to do both and make it better. Again, Cesar, thanks for stopping by as always. Safe travels, and we'll chat with you soon. Be well and keep the faith.
Just take a quick moment.
Yeah.
You just introduce yourself. Let Dr. Vibe welcome you into the show. As I told you, Dr. Vibe.
No. I welcome. I'm really good to have you here. I didn't want to. You were on a roll. I didn't want to interrupt. You were on a roll, but
In an world created by whites, dominated by whites, run by whites, and you're a billionaire, bro. FYI, I don't. It's probably the first time of the year that I use the word bro.
yes, it is. That's the first time, as long as I've known you, you used it.
My daughter would laugh.
But for many people, the economy ain't great. There we go. I saw that.